Say Uncle Doug.
Uncle Dan.
Welcome, and we're glad to have you. I guess our Uncle Mark is going to be talking to us about some stuff.
Yeah, we don't know what he's going to talk about.
It seems it's very mysterious.
Yeah.
And I'm worried.
Like Mark himself.
Like
mysterious and worrying.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uncle Mark.
And mercurial is another word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which just means I'm fucking moody.
Yeah, you're a bit of a grump sometimes.
I thought it meant you were made of mercury.
Also, probably based on my age, I'm probably made of mercury.
And your recent sushi consumption, one assumes, being having been coastal.
Lots of sushi. So, yeah, today... There's a reason I'm grumpy and mercurial today, and it's because I'm going to be doing an oppression expression.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, and this is our segment where we talk about people who've kind of ended up with the shitty end of the religious stick.
Sure.
From time immemorial.
Which, does the religious stick have a non-shitty end?
If you are the Pope.
Yeah.
If you live inside the Vatican.
Yeah, if you're getting rich off of it. Yeah, I mean, I guess...
A very, very small non-shitty side.
Osteen has a pretty good non-shitty side of that stick.
Osteen's end of the stick is a beautifully tax-free ergonomic handle.
The non-shitty end of the stick is filed to a fine point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I'm going to demonstrate today that sometimes, well, in a very specific time, it wasn't just people that got the shitty end of the religious stick.
Oh?
It was our brothers and sisters in the animal kingdom.
Okay.
So I didn't know.
Oh, dear. We're going critters, huh?
Whether to call this segment Law and Order Barnyard or simply Bird Law.
Skunk.
But let me just jump right in. So this is kind of about animal trials. And I will we'll explore them in a fair amount of detail.
Is this like a Charlotte's Web sort of thing? What do we got here?
Or an Animal Farm kind of a thing.
Well, when I bring up animal trials, you might be exactly thinking of the gruesome scene from George Orwell's Animal Farm, in which Napoleon responds to the Hens' Rebellion by putting on a Stalinist show trial and has them all murdered by the dogs. No, that's not what I am to discuss today.
Okay.
Surely you say, Uncle Mark, you mean the celebrated episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where we discover one of Charlie Kelly's main hidden talents is his expertise in bird law, with which he reveals the existence of Royal McPoyle, the true eye-plucking culprit, in a dramatic courtroom surprise. And while we do need to discuss that, I think as a society at much greater length,
Sure.
That's not what we're doing.
And that's a different
here today.
podcast.
That's a different...
That's Uncle Mark's Always Sunny fanboy podcast.
It's Always Sunny in Uncle Mark's closet. No. So I was kind of reminded of this phenomenon by another towering monument of popular culture, Drunk History.
Oh, sure.
They did an episode recently featuring the wonderful Jack McBrayer as a lawyer for rats. So, you see, medieval Europeans were many things. They were industrious. They were curious under very controlled circumstances. They were afraid of the dark, and oftentimes they were stupid. And one way our cousins in the European Middle Ages expressed their stupidity was to use their brutal church-based systems, legal systems, to put animals, down to and including termites, on trial in a courtroom with a judge and a prosecutor and a public defender.
So they were bored. What you're saying is that they were a very bored people.
They were bored and insane.
Bored and litigious, apparently.
Bored and litigious. So we like to think of the 14th and 15th and 16th centuries in Europe as the time they were busy building all the shit we Americans like to go take selfies with, the giant cathedrals and the cool castles and all that stuff. And yes, that is what was happening.
Sure.
And many of us know that many a medieval evening, the facades of those truly magnificent buildings were lit with the crackling glow of screaming people being set on fire on purpose for the crime of disagreeing about the proper date of Easter or that baptizing babies was weird. But, you got to break a few eggs to make such timelessly beautiful omelets.
Religion.
But in between setting Protestants on fire and putting Galileo under house arrest because he made the Pope mad when he figured out how the sky worked, there was still some time left as everybody desperately waited for the Renaissance and the Enlightenment to get going. So why not put pigs and donkeys on trial?
Sure, why not?
This is no pun intended, a rabbit hole. The scholarship on animal trials in the Middle Ages is crazy. But I'll limit myself to just a few wonderful examples. So the first known one that people were able to find, scholars were able to find, was in the very stressful year 666 in France.
Love that year.
Oh, really?
That was my favorite year.
I'm surprised they let that year happen.
Yeah.
They just didn't go to 667.
I'm surprised.
666.
I'm surprised we all survived that year.
I'm surprised we survived any year in
I got
600s.
I got through it, but it wasn't easy. You know what I mean? I what I did, as you'll see here, is I cursed and burned a bunch of storks alive.
Well, as you
Yeah,
do.
which was the first listed animal trial and execution, but I couldn't find what the actual charge was. then in 824 in Italy, a group of moles were excommunicated for reasons unknown, and I thought, well, perhaps they were part of some secret underground.
Well, it's just.
Boo.
Oh man, that hurt. That one hurt. I was just gonna say, what these stupid moles didn't know was that their eternal souls were at peril.
They're mole souls.
Souls moles.
when they were finally.
And there's a thing called anathema,
Yeah.
which is, we'll talk a little bit more about it. Basically, because they couldn't necessarily kill every rat in the village, they would excommunicate them. So,
That'll show them.
so
Give us plague, will you? Ha ha!
before we
You
delve,
don't get to go to heaven, son of a bitch.
before we delve into more detail about all this awfulness, there's a peculiar jurisdictional distinction to be made. It turns out there was a sort of county line where one authority ended and another began.
Right.
See, domesticated animals living on farms and in towns were considered part of human society, a very much lesser part, but still a part. They were prosecuted by civil authorities, obviously. But animals not under the direct control of humans, like rats, flies, beetles, locusts, eels, and yes, dolphins, required special policing, magic policing. That's where Animal Cops Vatican City were called in. Now, as most civil authorities were still dominated by the church, we won't let that little legal boundary bother us too much for this segment.
So does that mean if the dolphin makes it out over the county line, all the cops have to stop?
That's right.
Yeah.
Bad
the-
boys,
out of their
bad
jurisdiction.
boys, what you gonna do?
So it's worth a quick journey through the origins of Christian
You got to
thinking.
do it. You got to do it on purpose.
Oh God, you're both on one.
I'm so glad we're not recording this. So it's worth a quick reminder of what the origins of Christian thinking about the value of animals and the varying degrees of barbarity that these godly forebears presumed God created them to sustain. As you'll recall, Genesis 1:28 says that God created humans in his own image, saying to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and conquer it." That hasn't caused any fucking trouble.
Nope.
Be masters of the fish of the sea, the birds of heaven, and all living animals on earth.
I've tried to be a master of fish. They do not listen.
Aquaman.
I literally, you yell at a fish, they don't do it.
Growing up, I loved Aquaman so much because I liked swimming, and I realize now that I thought he was really hot.
Right.
And it wasn't until a few years ago that I realized that he's kind of the lamest of the superheroes.
Oh, he's the lamest.
Oh,
It broke my
100%.
heart. It broke my heart.
Well, I mean, now he's Jason Momoa. He's suddenly cool again.
He's cool. Thanks. It's come full circle.
But I mean, he's not that blonde like boy in spandex that we all
The
grew up
orange
with.
shirts, the orange scaly shirts.
Whose
orange shirt.
big superpower was going mo 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 at fish.
Yeah, and then the whales would be like, "Got it.
Got it. Check. Roger that.
Where'd Aquaman go? Who cares?"
Somebody tell the minnows.
He's dealing with sardines at the moment. So that there is that commandment or that original thing in Genesis when God was making all the things, and it's led to a bunch of horrors over the years. But there are some tempering follow-ups in the biblical texts that are Sarah McLachlan level animal welfare concern, such as Leviticus 22, an old friend of ours, says a cow and her calf were not to be killed on the same day. That's nice.
That's sure.
That's nice.
Give the mom one day to mourn.
Yeah.
And then cut her up.
Or the kid. Well,
Or the kid.
Either way.
Either way.
You just
Right.
Deuteronomy 25 says oxen treading the corn were not to be muzzled. That's
Words to live by.
so important. So relevant to our modern
seems
times.
fair to me. Deuteronomy 14 kindly says kids, meaning baby goats, or fuck it, it's Deuteronomy. It might mean human children as well, were not to be cooked in their mother's milk.
Right?
And later, like, is that an impulse that people had that
Right.
needed curbing?
It was a
Well,
problem.
use somebody. Just use his aunt's milk. That's all you need. Go one udder over.
And mother birds are not to be disturbed while sitting on eggs, and that oxen and asses are not to be yoked together. Okay, Bible. Thanks for all the super helpful information.
In the eye, arms, isn't it?
Oh,
the eyes, I almost saying in the eyes of an angel.
You had to make it all sexual. What's so creepy? But then, that's just the nasty Old Testament that Christians insist no takesies backsies on,
right.
but still sell it attached at the spine to the New Testament as a match set. Oddly, for a book they love to ignore whenever one of us brings it up. But what does the super enlightened New Testament have to say about being kind to animals?
Oh, this is going to go well.
Let's see where to begin. Hold on. Nothing.
Jesus rode into town on an ass. I remember that.
and a donkey. And a fig tree's not really an animal, is it?
No.
No, but I like figs. But it literally says nothing. In fact, it says quite a few things to the opposite. St. Augustine argued that Jesus allowing the 2,000 Gadarene swine to drown demonstrate that man has no duties to animals at all. Quote, Christ shows that to refrain from the killing of animals and the destroying of plants is the height of superstition. Now, if you don't remember the Gadarene swine,
Oh, I do.
yeah, it's when Jesus cast the demon out of some dude and then all into the pigs and they all ran into the water.
Right.
Yep. 2,000.
And then strangely, the Christians became the ones who actually eat pigs, as opposed to the Jews.
I'll show you on the whiteboard how it all pencils out. Okay. Totally makes sense. So 900 years later, our friend Thomas Aquinas argued that it was actually desirable to be decent to animals because being mean to animals meant you were likely to be a prick to people. Sure, dude, just like the rest of us, you've binge-watched Mindhunter,
Right.
but mostly because it might cost somebody something financially. So
Right.
that's why you don't be mean to animals. So better, but not great. So back to the absurdities of bird court. So in most cases, an aggrieved person would make a pleading to the judge about damaged crops or whatever, and the court would dispatch an investigator to estimate the damage. Once they reported back to the judge, then the judge would invariably demand public processions and prayers to allay heaven's anger before the trial proper began.
I think, by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. We're going to have a new Patreon goal for all of you. If we make enough money with this thing, we will make Enzo attaché to Bird Court. It will be a movie, and the investigator will be an Italian. We'll figure it out. We're working on it.
Yeah, he's a hard-hitting,
Yeah,
hard-boiled, hard-drinking
bird investigator.
bird cop. So if those intercessions for holy help didn't work, it was off to the races.
Yeah.
One of the most famous incidents was the one that Drunk History tackled beautifully. The rats of Autun, France, were summoned to answer for their devouring of the region's barley crops, and the judge appointed a guy whose name is so beautiful I just have to say it. Bartholomew Chassenet.
Oh,
He argued that the rats could not be expected to appear because they lived all over the place.
right. And we can't catch them.
And the court thought, yeah, that's a good idea. You're right. So the court ordered summons to be read in all the towns and villages affected, read out loud in French.
In French, which is the rat language.
To the rats. Yeah. When they failed to appear again, Chassenet argued the journey was arduous and cats were fucking everywhere, so it was an unfair burden on his clients, and he won.
I think now we got a spin-off series that is our second Patreon goal, which is Rat Defender. Bartholomew, Rat Defender.
And he's on a bus bench, his arms crossed.
Are you a rat?
You a rat? I can help you out. You won't be surprised that pigs, again, were frequently the offending party, as they can be aggressively omnivorous. They were often tried for eating the body parts of children that were unable to escape them.
Oh, yeah.
One pig was hanged for eating an entire child. It gets better. And it was an aggravated offense because it was a Friday.
Oh my God! Wow.
It's Fish on Fridays, Mr. Pig, not Philip.
And not for nothing, but do pigs have necks? Can you make a pig?
It sounds really complicated.
Can't be easy. No matter what,
Keeps slipping out.
I'll show you on the board after the show. There's a whole way you do it. So again in France, 3 sow pigs went nuts and killed a young man. There were several piglets in the pen as well that were spattered with blood. In a strange moment of mercy, it was decided in lengthy proceedings that the piglets were innocent, so they were not hanged or burned like their murderous mother and aunties.
finally justice being served.
At last, mercy. So victim blaming was a whole side business of these absurd courts. Animals who had been raped by humans were treated especially harshly.
Oh well,
no.
Whores.
because that's biblical, obviously.
Yeah, and that's where the word horse comes from, is whores. So a donkey that got fucked by some peasant was sentenced to burn with him. It was,
They burned the peasant too, though.
they burned the peasant too.
Okay.
So
At least, at least there's that.
Him
Yeah.
and his girlfriend.
that's something like justice, his
Yeah.
girlfriend. But this donkey was known to kick because, of course, it was. So its hooves were chopped off before it was burned alive next to the rapist.
Oh my God! What did they chop off of the rapist?
I don't know. It didn't say.
Well,
Yeah,
think
didn't
we
say.
all
I'll go
know.
back and see in the microfiche and see if I can find it. And sadly, uncles, not all animals were necessarily afforded a trial for their sins. Sensitive listeners or cat lovers may want to mute for the next 90 seconds.
beware, Doug.
I am a cat lover.
And so's Uncle Mark. Cats in medieval Europe, a place where humans, remember, nearly went extinct because of vermin-borne diseases more than once,
Yeah.
were seen as evil and connected to witchcraft. Cat burning started as a way to deal with the terror of strange old women who kept them as pets,
But it continued as a way to light your home.
and it turned into huge public festivals where masses of cats would be burned alive over bonfires.
Oh my God!
In nets or wicker baskets, or beaten to death with sticks as a fun game for children. On festival nights in some towns, cats were doused with flammable liquids and chased through the streets as they burned alive in one last panic.
We're a good species, we humans.
And again, rat and mouse-borne disease nearly wiped out a continent, and our stupid forefathers decided to torture and burn alive the only possible remedy.
Their natural predator.
Yeah.
Christianity, the answer to all life's
Right.
problems.
Well, it's nothing if not divinely inspired.
Jesus. So there is a name for this behavior, and it's called zoosadism. And as our friend Thomas Aquinas correctly surmised from watching Mindhunter, if you like that sort of thing, you're a fucking defective monster who should never be in the company of decent people.
I think Aquinas was more of a Dexter guy, wasn't he?
Well, he had a lot of time to binge
Except
watch.
for season 7. I mean, come on.
Well, yeah.
So this is an audio format, so you can't see the picture of Don Jr. and the dumber one I'm holding up to the microphone with a picture of a jaguar in it. So let me end close to where we began, with a Charlie Kelly-style miracle of hilarity and super earnest human weirdness. In 1587, the vineyards of Julian, France, were beset by humble weevils. Insects, the thing the Bible says have 4 legs for all the science nerds out there.
Right.
An ecclesiastical court was convened, and it was determined that the weevils were indeed ruining the harvest. Their defense attorney argued that they were God's creation, and they were also entitled to sustenance. The prosecution agreed, but said man did have dominion over them. This was a huge quandary, so the townsfolk came up with a compromise. In exchange for the weevils leaving their vineyards, they would select a nice piece of land that could forever be the weevils' property to live on.
Weevilville?
Well,
Weevillville.
Mark, I'm sorry, but you always have to choose between the lesser of two weevils.
Wow. I'm canceling the show. That was the last one.
I thought we'd make it to 50, but we didn't. So
How are you guys the punsters in this one? I'm like notoriously bad at I'm a punter, but
Yeah.
you guys are really.
you're more the dad joke guy.
Yeah, I guess
I don't know
so.
what's going on today?
It's rough.
We flipped the script. So what's really crazy about all this is when you read these stories, you hear about these stories originally, you're just like, religious people just lost their fucking minds like a witch trial and just set people on fire.
Sure.
But this was really an earnest attempt to negotiate with nature.
Right.
And just fairly.
Yeah,
chopping the hooves
Look,
off and burning it, not so much.
I mean, it does reek a little bit of you don't want to put people on reservations. We've learned this now, but
yes, they had not learned it in 1587.
right. But
So-
weevils, surely they cooperated.
Well, it gets even better. So the defense attorney went and examined the plot of land that was set aside, and he reported back that it was sterile and unsuitable. The prosecution argued it was a lush paradise, thus fit for weevils. This went on and back and forth for 8 months.
Wow.
And sadly, we will never know what the final verdict was because, and again, this is true, the last page of the court proceeding was eaten by insects.
Oh, that's good.
So that's bird law, guys. That is the sad, weird, idiot tale of justice misapplied.
But, I mean, I think we need to fire this back up again. I feel like there are some animals out there that we need to be trying in a court of law rather than just it's madness. It's Armageddon out there.
I would like the power to at least issue citations to my cats.
Right.
I don't want to go back to this craziness, but I honestly think a few tickets might help them shut the fuck up at 4:00 in the morning. So,
Yeah. And I might be less prone to killing spiders if I could just litigate them out of my house.
Just bury them in paperwork.
oh, another summons. He's got 8, one in each leg. Oh, yeah. All right, well, that's stupid. That's bird law. Let's move on.
Right, let's move on.